Amen. May God be us. Okay, so our second relationship is kind of right away. And the topic is knowing the existence of God. We believe that God really exists very soon. They are going to be enlightened by our brother from God life. They were by the Mr. Derrick Danso, Danso, so how we see what was because it's showing the existence of God. Yes, and so within the course of the lecture, this way you take out the root roots and then your pen, you write down any point you want to write down. Whereas with the other side, you have any question, you will kindly put it down, and after about a period of an hour, you are going to open it for us all to ask our questions. So our expert will be able to take you to and the lecture go on, make sure you write the important points down so that after the end of the lecture, you can be able to ask the questions. These are very important topics. These are helping us to because we are seeing a lot of books, a lot of Without humility, let's welcome Derrick, Danso on stage here. Good morning, William Darrell. Actually, I am here. Hello, actually, I'm here. There are now people, as he said, why are we not sure? He said, and then Asia, Asia, will give all the praise and all the adoration for the opportunity for us to meet, to study, especially about services. And if you are watching online or meet your favorite, you are welcome. And we encourage you to please check the others so that this lesson will be very useful. Today's conversation is going to center who God is and who is a when we talk about knowing the existence of God, some questions all come to our minds. That is, why should we know about the existence of God? And who is God? Is that important for us to know about His existence? Because so many things exist and we might not want to care what it is. But almost everybody in Ghana has said something about God. And so it's only right that we explore the question, who is God? Why is he God? Was he created? I mean, why should we worship him? These are questions that every rational person should be asking. Because when something happens to us right now, especially in the past, and maybe there's an accident. Everyone before the accident, everyone will shout, Jesus. We are going to say, oh, why do we follow God? What motivates us to do that? And aside that, sometimes we are saying, stop praying. Why do we want to pray? Even if you know God to face advice, why do you still have to pray? For example, the account before our president is sworn as the best of the country, he used some of the Bible as well as say certain things. Why is it important? Why the Bible is important? And in addition to that, why should we be able to extend that before somebody says anything, it swears and take the or somebody should push us to accept that that God actually exists. Now, something very interesting in our society today. We are living in the best of times.
If somebody lives in the Western world, the person will get that particular thing you are praying for. So most Ghanaians that travel outside, especially when they do last in the most of them they don't have any faith in God again. And you know why? They don't have that faith in God because they assume or they think that now they have been able to reach that point where they can confidently say that this thing I pray for, it has answered in the US. So we are benefiting them. US is money heaven. How many times have you tried this? You guys tried? Okay. Very close to close to faith. Let's try to get the sound for them. Just a minute. Alright, so you can continue. So those of you just a minute to this. Alright. So when we look at some people making this statement, and you assume that these statements are literal statements, like oh, I have a Germanic heaven. And recently this audience using because his album that he released, the jazz album. Do you know that album? Someone released an album, jazz album. And in that album, one of the songs, he said that heaven is not a place, it's your heart. Have you that did anybody realize that? Okay, this is how you and I hope that saying it was no, when he, I don't know which song, I don't know whether I don't know the example, but he said, heaven is not a place, but rather it's your, how you start this or your heart or something like that. It's a false statement. These statements are made loosely, and you think it has no implications. Why are we bothered about this? And why do we need to discuss this? Look at this interesting thing that happened recently on Daily Graphic. Daily Graphic published this when I saw this, I was going to make a video about it, which I will try to make a video. They said this. They said, I will give you over 12,500 year old ancestral cave converted into Bible park. Not just that, there was a time also on cave rescue campus, they put out a publication every day or so. And in one of the publications, we were talking about the age of the universe. And they said that our universe is about 13.4 billion years old. When Daily Graphic publishes something like this, as a Christian, you ask yourself, does this matter? And when you go to the comment section, people don't care. People are making fun. Okay, so the earth is about 4,500. This place is an actual place you can go there and see for yourself. It's 12,500 years old. But ladies and gentlemen, the earth is as old as just 6,000 years. The earth is not even up to 10,000, 12,000 years. Not talk of just ability. How do we explain this? And when we go to the comment section, I think somebody tried to explain that. No, the earth is not that old. It's just about 6,000 years old. Come and see people descend on you. People insulting you. People say, no, you are using the Christian. That's why you are saying that it's false. How do we arrive at this calculation? You might think, oh, example, when we go to the Bible, when we study the Bible, the best estimate you can have is about 6,000 years. The entire universe, not just here. The entire universe is as old as 6,000 years. How do you do this? And if a Christian also goes to this narrative, oh, I'm going to 12,500 years, I'm going to be 12,000. Is it a matter of salvation or what? If you hold on to this, what you are saying is that what the Bible says is false. There are people, there are Christians who are lecturers, there are Christians who are students like ourselves, who go to class and they are told that the universe is about 14 billion years old. And I have a Christian who assumes that it's true, especially in Genesis chapter 1. It says day 1, day 2, day 3, every day is about a billion years. It's possible. So, why should we know our God? Why should we understand who He is? It is because we have been peddling, people have been peddling lies for a long time. People have been saying these things for a long time, and when you look at the evidence, it is not true. The earth, even though the TV is not as old as this. So how do we respond to these things? Because this strikes directly against the God of the Bible. It destroys everything that you think you know about God. If the world is actually a billion years old, it's false everything. It means God is not true. It means God has existed, and I'll explain why. And I have some images concerning some families. Most families have this problem, especially those of us in the university. This is the University of Energy and Natural Resources. So generally, we do the sciences, right? We do the sciences. We have lessons here. We have lessons. We have mathematics. We have mathematics. Okay, what about physics, stuff like that? Do them here. In our classes, we are told that the universe is that old and the universe evolved. And human beings, at a point in time, just evolved and came into existence. How do we respond to this question? Should we ignore them? Or should they say, oh, they are not true? Like some people say, yeah, I'm just teaching you, I don't believe it. Should we assume that position? We need to know who God is so that we will properly understand how this universe works. If you have a wrong world view, every other thing you do becomes wrong. If you have the correct world view, then it starts affecting every other thing. If you look at everything through the lens of God, the way you see things is different. If you think God doesn't exist, the way you view things is also different. So this is very important because if somebody says that God doesn't exist, what do you do with the church? What do you do with the Bible? Now, let me ask this. Why do you think some people hold on to this view that, okay, there's no God? Why do you think people teach, or especially most of us believe God exists, without even knowing why God exists? And so when we are presented with some questions, it's not bothering us. Today, ask the questions you want to ask. Don't hold them back. And if somebody asks a question, don't think that this question is finished. Please don't do that. Why? I think that it is because most of us, we are not receiving good answers to our questions. For example, let's say there's an 8 months, how do you call a pregnant woman who is 8 months old, right? And she decides to cross the road, and there's a car accident. Right? And this pregnant woman dies in the baby. If you are the husband, what will be your first reaction? What will be your first reaction?
So much. Is that what you do? You harbor some pain, some hatred. I have come across atheists who once told me that the mom was so sick. They took her to all the churches in Nigeria, almost all the churches in Nigeria, for prayers, from one church to another church to another church to another church. Finally, the mom died. Then he concluded, God doesn't exist. If God exists, why didn't God heal the mom when they went to all these churches? Maybe church A, maybe the pastor had sinned. So are you telling me all the churches, God was not there? Hey, God, you should have saved my mother. And because of that, you can't tell me God exists. We call this the problem of pain and suffering, or the problem of evil. This, in all the arguments of those who are saying that God doesn't exist, this is the strongest that they have. This is the strongest argument. Recently, I had a class with one student from, I think he's from Poland. When I was having a class with this Poland student, all of a sudden the class changed into, it became presentations of your arguments. Because before we started the class, he saw my library, he saw many Bibles there. He said, "Are you religious?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a religious person." He said, why do you believe in religion? And why are you saying God exists? Because I told him that I believe God exists and I have rational proof to know that God exists. So before I started talking, he said, then before you start talking, understand that if your God actually exists, there wouldn't be any problem in the universe. I was quiet. He said, number one, today, you have so many babies dying. Yes or no? Many babies are being born right on the spot. They die. So if God exists, why is God not saving the babies? He said recently in Turkey, there was an earthquake. People died in Turkey. Kishanatu, the late Kishanatu, he died. Ghanaians were praying, but the man died. So if your God actually exists, why didn't God do anything? There was a time one of the aircrafts, 747, Boeing 747, it was in the air and it crashed. Didn't you hear the news? Plane crash. Later videos came out, the baby was crying and people started asking questions. If God actually existed, assume all the old people are sinful, what about the baby? Oh, couldn't God have saved that person? What was my response? I said, thank you very much for the question. But today as we speak, over 10,000 babies are being born onto the lap of their mothers. Grandmothers are kissing their babies and telling them, I love you. People are so filled with joy. People in Somalia, people in some remote parts of Africa without food are getting free aid. Somebody, they don't know them from anywhere. They just say that when I die, take all my money, go and give it to the people in Somalia, humanitarian aid. People are doing philanthropic acts without knowing who they are. Therefore, God exists. Is that a good argument? False. This is an emotional appeal. So when I told him it's an emotional appeal, now he was quiet to listen to the next step. So what then is the case? How do we know if indeed there is God or not? So many questions are being asked, especially on social media. People just sit behind their keyboard and they just type some questions. Oh, God hasn't existed. If your God exists, this should happen. And they are not willing and ready to accept the answers that we give. If you are listening to us, you have atheists, you have questions, it's okay to have questions, but it's wrong not to seek answers. So how can we know that God actually exists? And what should we do? Now, I'll come back to this. If I don't answer this question, you can ask it during the question and answer time. Okay. Now, let's skip all this. Yes. These are the questions people are asking, especially on social media. Today in Ghana, they will tell you that, you see, I believe in God. But the God that I believe in is not the God of the Bible. And even if God answers your prayer, he only answers prayer 1%. Some will tell you that the Bible is false. The Bible is not from God. We have men of God, very popular men of God in Ghana. Somebody like Chaboso, he even contested for president. He has a larger following. That tells the world that heaven doesn't exist. Oh, forget the Bible. The Bible is just some men sitting somewhere to write things. These statements are loose and nonsensical. Why do I say they are loose and nonsensical? Nonsensical in the sense that it's like somebody saying 1 plus 1 is 5. Whatever thing you tell me, I won't listen. Is that good? Is that good? No, if you want to tell me 1 plus 1 is 5, be ready to answer my questions. Yes or no? So if you tell me the Bible is not the word of God, or you tell somebody the Bible is the word of God, you should be ready to explain why. So people in Ghana are not saying they are full-blown atheists in the sense that they don't believe there is God. They will tell you, maybe there is God, but I don't think that God, he cares about anything on this earth. And those people, this is how they are called. They are deists. Most people are deists, and I pray none of us are deists. Who is a deist? Deists are saying that, you see, maybe there is God, but he doesn't care about our universe. Please, are you following? He doesn't care about what is happening in the universe. After creating it, he just left it. Hello? This is one group. This is what they are saying. So most Ghanaians, from my experience, those Africans who are claiming that they don't accept the Bible, they are those who are skeptics. Someone like KSM. KSM, a very popular man, with all due respect, he doesn't believe in the God of the Bible. He said the God of the Bible is a terrorist. He's a terrorist. He has so many words I can't say. How do we respond to them? Because when people like that say it, when you're not careful, when you go to church, our preachers don't talk about it, right? We don't hear them. So how then would we solidify our faith and also give good answers to people? Some questions I normally ask my friends who are deists is this. This is one of the questions. How do you arrive at your conclusion? And how do you define that? How do you define God? Whenever you're having any conversation with anybody, even yourself, let me ask you, you believe in God, what is God? What do you mean by God? And our brother taught us. What do you mean by God? God is not a name, as in, like our brother explained, but rather it's describing something, like human being. Please, who's called human being here? Hello, human being, raise your hand. Is somebody called human being? But we are all humans, right? It describes our nature. So that is, if you say God, and in one debate I had with an atheist, somebody who doesn't believe God exists, I asked him, you want to tell me that God doesn't exist? I don't have a problem with you. But my question is that, what is God? He couldn't define what is God. If you want to tell me that the God of the Bible doesn't, you should be able to tell me what God is. How do you tell me you don't know what doesn't exist? Come on. So most people just make the statement. Even some of us sitting here, we say, oh, God exists. What do you mean by God? What is God? What is God? The simple answer I can give for God is that God is an immaterial, incorporeal, self-existent, omnipotent being. God is self-existent, and we'll explain further when we get there. So these are some questions you can ask somebody who says, how do you determine the characteristics of this being? You are saying God created and he left the being and he went somewhere. How did you arrive at that conclusion? Did you just use your mind or something? Tell us how. Tell us how. Now, let's continue. So, this is one of the reasons why I have interest in discussing this topic. If you assume that nothing created the universe or there is no God, it has implications. If you also think that God exists, it also has implications. So if you are saying God doesn't exist, you are watching us where it has implications. One of the implications for saying that maybe there is no God is this. You are saying that humans should not be treated differently than animals. And already we have heard it in our classes that human beings are first class animals. Yes or no? Yes. And we have accepted it. We are going with the narrative, but it's false. We are not animals by definition of the word, because animals do not have the ability to rationally think. We have the ability. So it's false to do that. And because of this conclusion, today we are seeing very wild things that are happening in the US, countries that have really adopted this system. One of the implications is concerning abortion. In Ghana, now if you do not value human life, If you claim God doesn't exist, why should you value human life? Why should you think that if a mother carries a baby, she can't just kill the baby? Or if I give birth to a baby and the baby is walking around and I think I can't feed the baby, why can't I just kill the baby? What will make it wrong? Is it your idea or my idea or somebody superior than us? Okay, let's continue. Now, there's one issue. I don't know if you have seen it. Because of the idea that there is no God, people are assuming whatever they want to assume. They are taking every position they want to take. Because of that, now one problem is trending on social media. Maybe you have not seen about the LGBTQ community, about the gayism and lesbianism. I have said this and I'll continue to say that no system, no society will be able to thrive for a long time with that idea. Why do I say this? Recently, when you pick your phones and check WhatsApp, you see that there is a pregnant man. How many of you agree that a man can get pregnant? How many of us? None. But you know on WhatsApp, if you check the emojis, it is in there that a man can actually get pregnant. Is that sensible? Hello? No, when we say something is sensible, it's not an insult. Are you following? It doesn't add up to think that it's like saying that you find pawpaw fruits on a mango tree. Does that make sense? It doesn't. But today, people are spreading this information to the extent that all of us have been forced to accept it one way or the other. And you have it on your WhatsApp where you have a pregnant man. And it's not just there, but people are spreading it and they are teaching it. How do we come to the conclusion? How do we understand all these things? To understand all these things, we need to know who our God is. If it is indeed true that there is God, if it is indeed true that a being created the universe, then it changes everything. It changes everything. Now, let's look at this. I strongly believe that we can know that God exists. Why? Christians have been told that if you believe God exists, it means, oh, it's just faith. You just have faith. And especially they'll tell you it's because we believe. Oh, you just believe. And when you check definition of belief, it is your own definition you are given, that you don't have any evidence. But as Christians, this is what we are saying. We are saying that there is enough evidence to conclude that God exists. And we can know this. Before we even go deep into the looking at the evidences and everything, let me ask some questions. You are here in this room. Everybody is here in this room. This universe is here. So the question is that, how did we get here? If there is no God, how did we arrive here? This should be the first question. And you know, because of this question, some Ghanaians who are saying that, oh, the Bible is not from God. Oh, God hasn't, what you're talking about, I don't agree with you. But they come back and say that, maybe even if there is God, I accept 1%. The reason why they do that is because you need to tell us how we got here. Yes or no? How did we arrive here? So they just have to accept that maybe there is God. And now go ahead and do whatever they want to. But they don't know that if you accept that God exists, this is the implication. If you accept that God exists, this is the implication. It means that God is real and there's real objective right and wrong. It means some things are genuinely right and some things are genuinely wrong. A lot of times when we are having conversations, somebody will tell you that, oh, for me, I think this is right. For me, I think that is wrong. No, if God exists, you can't tell me whatever you want to say. We will need a standard. And that standard will come back to the Bible. That standard will come back to the Bible. Now, we have real obligation to obey the will of God. If God exists, if it is true that he exists, then you need to obey him. And each and every one of us will live that lives on this earth after dying. You go to a place which you call afterlife. If God exists, then afterlife is true. But most people do not want to entertain that idea that God exists because they want the freedom to do whatever they want to do. But in freedom lies responsibility. And the final thing is that if indeed God exists, then we must all give account to that particular being, what we did here on earth. Now the question is this. We want to know this God. We want to understand who this God is. How do we do that? Because Muslims also claim there is God. Buddhists claim there is God. Almost every religion claims there is God. So how would we know that it is indeed the God of the Bible? Let us learn some things. Let us learn some things. Now, whenever we are looking at this, people say this statement that, oh, Derrick, you see, what you are telling us about knowing the existence of God, are you telling us that you are guessing or you are sure God exists? If I'll put it in probability, I would say 99.9% certain that God exists. How? When we look at the things that surrounds us, it shouts to us that there is God, there is God. But oftentimes, because technology has advanced so much, whenever you're talking about evidence, people push us to this extent. Science. I don't know why. Every time when we talk about evidence, people start saying, okay, one Nigerian told me that if Derrick, I would accept that God exists if you can show me God, or if you can let me hear the voice of God, then I'll believe God exists. Can you do that? And I said, no, I don't need to do that. Jesus Christ walked with people, yet they did not even believe him. How much more God speaking? What if you say that? What if there's a speaker somewhere talking to us? What if, okay, that voice, maybe, yes, I can hear the voice, but what if it is something, it is not God? If somebody wants to deny something, they can always deny it. Are we here? You can always find a false reason to deny something. But how do you rationally and logically prove that God exists? And how do we know that our God exists? Let's look at this. So there are two kinds of evidence you can talk about a lot. But one of them is this, what we call the empirical evidence and logical reasoning. How? When you go to the Ghanaian High Court, please, when you get to the court, when they are talking about an issue, they use logical reasoning, not litmus paper test. Let us taste the thing. Let us smell the. No, that's not what they do. They look at the reasons. Maybe I wasn't there, but when I listen to the argument, for example, let's say you go to, you come to this place. Before you enter, you realize that they have arranged all the chairs here. Please, sir, what would be your assumption? Would you assume that a mosquito with a wife came here to arrange all the chairs? Would that be your assumption? Or why wouldn't that be your assumption? Mosquito is a living thing. Or why wouldn't you assume that? Come again? They can barely carry themselves, but they can't even carry the chair. So you did not see the mosquito do it, or you did not see the mosquito not do it, but you are assuming that mosquitoes can't do that based on certain things. Is that not it? That is what we call the logical reasoning, and that's what is done in the court. In the lab, in the scientific lab, we don't do only that there. Even though we need that, that is not the main focus. So let's look at this. Before people tell us that our God doesn't exist because of science, understand that in one part of science that we call observational science, you need to have seen the thing, tested, repeated, verified, before you can say this is scientific. Because, for example, when you ask people, how did we get here? Some people will tell that we evolved. How many of us have heard that in class, on TV, or radio, internet, that human beings evolved from animals over multiplied millions of years and today we are here? Only one person. Oh, several of us, we have all heard this. The question is that concept, macroevolution, is it scientific? Is it scientific? It's intelligence, it's everywhere. Is it scientific? Can we observe it? No. Can we test it? How do you test it? Can we repeat it in the lab? That's okay. Over multiple millions of years, human beings evolved from this and this. Let's not use humans. Let's just use animals. Two animals. Let's keep an animal in a certain atmosphere. Let's create the conditions and hope that the animal will evolve to become another organism. Will that ever happen? It will never happen. It will never happen. So how do you call that science? It is pseudo-science, false science. But it has been sold to everybody as science. So we need to learn that there are two branches of science. One is the operational of the observational science, and two is what we call historical science. We have what? Operational observational science, and we have historical science. For example, the operational science is what you are seeing on the screen. How we are able to make phones, laptops, cars, airplanes. Every Christian agrees with this operational science. We are all on the same page. The same tools, we all do the same thing. When we go to the lab, we all do the same thing. But when it comes to historical science, this is also operational science. You go to the lab, you do surgeries, everything. Operational science is simple. Engineering is the same thing. But when it comes to historical science, like archaeology, forensics, paleontology, geology, who does geology here? Geology or archaeology, any of them? Geography. Obi and geography that. Nobody studied geography in senior high school. We have practical geography. What? And which one again? Human. Yes, there are three, right? Yes. These studies, they are all historical. When the event happened, they were not there. So we try to reconstruct the past and understand that in historical science, a lot of assumptions are made because nobody was there. So if somebody tells us the age of the universe, it is a historical question. It is not observational science. Even though you are going to base on what you see to make the prediction, it is historical. Nobody was there. So we need to be careful with some of the assumptions that are made. And that is why what Daily Graphic published concerning Abetifi is false. It's false because when you look at the assumptions that are made to do those calculations, they are very wild claims that if Christians make the same claim, they will tell us they won't accept. So we can't accept that. So knowing that, this is one of the first reasons why I think that it's a strong reason to say God exists. Because everything we call matter demands a maker. What is matter? Let me see if I have money. I have money here. Hey, what is matter? I like to give out when I'm teaching. So if you answer, you might get something. What is matter? Okay, somebody raise their hand over there. I said you might get something. Might, underlined word. My brother is bad. He's giving me 2 CDs. Okay. Who is answering? Please fast. Okay, thank you very much. You're a guy, so you didn't get anything. Sorry. If a lady answered, I'll give the lady something. So we'll come to the next person you try. So he says matter is anything that has weight and can occupy space. So literally, when we say matter, everything. This podium here, the projector, the phone, everything is matter. Air itself is matter. So we are saying that anything that has mass and can occupy space has a maker. Somebody somewhere should have made it. It is because of this reason that they are saying that maybe even if God doesn't exist, even if God exists, he exists, but he doesn't care about us. It is that the reason. Because have you ever seen anything in this room, anywhere, that does not have a maker? Never. The chair. If you tell Apple that this phone just popped into existence, what you are saying is that all the engineers they have, you are just insulting all of them. Somebody made it. Somebody made it. And I like using this example. I heard you have item 13. I don't know if it's Gobe or not. Yes. So please, if I show you this image, I use this image because it is too simple. If you see jollof rice, please say, would you ever assume that nobody prepared this jollof rice? Would you ever assume that? What if I told you that jollof rice over 10,000 years just popped into existence? You are laughing, sir. You are laughing because it's absurd. But that's what they are telling us. That this whole body you see here just popped into existence. Naturally. It's not possible. It's not possible. It's just absurd. Unless you assume the miraculous position. That this jollof rice just miraculously came here. Then you have other questions to answer as well. Okay, what about this? I use this room a lot. Your room is scattered. You come back, your room is neatly arranged like my room. I'm not saying this is your room. Then you come back and you see it like my room. How? It's true. He knows it's true. And your mom tells you that, oh, Derrick, when you went outside for class, before you returned, I saw, you see those cockroaches that have been passing behind you. They were the ones that were in your room for you. I'll tell her, I'll first do this. You won't believe it. So how come? Let's continue. So this law states this. You can look at it. It says that every material effect must have an adequate antecedent cause. Everything everything, and we will explain further. Kakum National Park, somebody made it. It didn't just happen. Okay, what about our universe? Nobody made it. Imagine, when it comes to Kakum National Park, who made it? They will point us, right? When it comes to this universe, complex universe, who made it? Nobody. Over 13.4 billion years ago, or 13.7 billion years ago, there was a big bang. To say not an explosion, don't science, a lot of times we get things wrong. In science, we don't say there was an explosion as in a bomb, boom, no. What we mean by the big bang is that there was a rapid expansion. At the multiplied millions of a second, there was a rapid expansion. And that rapid expansion, the entire universe expanded and stretched, and everything you see formed. Wow. And these are in textbooks. These are university manuals. These are people are doing project work, astronomy, cosmology. And the word cosmology itself, we will get there. It says it comes from the cosmos, which means orderliness. Let me show you something. When you look at this universe, this our observable universe. Now we have better images because recently human beings were able to land what we call James Webb telescope into the atmosphere. At first, these images were shot by Hubble telescope, which was quite powerful. But now we have even clearer images, better than this. Now, every single star you see here is a galaxy on its own. A galaxy contains several planets and several stars. It is estimated that our Milky Way galaxy, we are in the Milky Way galaxy, it has about a 16,000,000 stars. So many billions of stars. So many stars. And our Earth is like a dot here. Are you trying to picture what I'm saying? At a point, our understanding breaks down. So we use these images to try and explain it. Our Earth, this one, is just like a dot inside this Milky Way galaxy. And you tell us nobody made it. How is that possible? It's not rational to assume that. So if you are looking at the universe, how it came about, these are maybe the three options you have. And I keep on asking my students that if you have any other option, please add it. It's either this universe that you see here, it has always been here and will continue to be here, or it created itself from nothing, which some scientists are saying. Or you say that it was not created from nothing, but rather somebody superior or something superior to this universe created it. Because when you talk about time, space, matter, they all came into existence, should have come into existence at the same time. Unfortunately, the first answer we know is false. The universe cannot be eternal because of time. You know that can't be possible. The second one, which is the concept of the Big Bang, is also false. And this is why. I had a debate on the topic creation, the origins of the universe, creation or the Big Bang. It's on YouTube, you can look at it. And I had a question. My question is that, can you have energy without matter? It's not possible. Okay. So, can you have energy creating itself from nothing? Engineers will tell you, physicists will tell you that this law of thermodynamics, I think you use it every day. Engineers use it every day. They apply this law every day. It is not possible for energy to create itself or for it to be destroyed. You know, we learned this in basic school, right? It is a law. You can't destroy this. Whether quantum mechanics, whether you can't break this law. So you can't have energy just pop into existence. So my first question to show you that the Big Bang never happened, and there was no expansion, and it is not true, is that you can't have energy just happening on its own. No, that's not how energy works in science. That's not how it works. So the question is that if this law still holds, then the Big Bang can't be true. This is just a deeper explanation to what I was saying. This is just more explanations to say that it is not true. And so I would look at this point and add one more, then we end our time. Okay. So when you look at this, they are telling us that if you're a Christian, oh, you can't know your God exists. Oh, you're a Christian, you're just making things up. But please, let's just look at this. Who has a blind faith? Why in the GBA? Because remember, we are doing historical science, right? Historical science answers the question of our origin. Where did we come from? And historical science, we all make assumptions. Our assumption is that God, the creator of heaven and earth, made everything. And they are saying, no, it is irrational to say that. What is your alternative if God doesn't exist? In the beginning was nothing. Obviously, there was nothing. And nothing happened to nothing, and then nothing suddenly exploded. That is expansion for no logical reason, creating everything, and then bunch of everything magically rearranged itself for no reason whatsoever into self-replicating bits, which turn into you and I. And I am saying that no, that is illogical, that is irrational. What is a Christian's position? In the beginning, God created the heavens, and yet a supernatural being brought all these things into existence. And when you look at the Hebrew Bible in Genesis 1, it says, Bereshit bara Elohim et yashamayim et haaret. What is he saying there? Bereshit bara Elohim. So before time itself started, God was there. So God is outside of space, time, matter. So God is not part of the material universe. That is why he's called supernatural. Are we learning? That is why it's called what? Supernatural. God created the natural, the universe, the earth, that is natural. He brought the natural into existence. So he can't be part of the natural. During question time, when questions come, we'll look at some of them. So how do we know our God? Let me end with this. Maybe you are thinking, okay, Derrick, what you're saying, but there are some questions Christians can't answer. So what are you saying? Let me pose 3 major questions to anybody who claims that God doesn't exist and we can't know that our God exists. For this reason, we can know our God exists. One of the questions, how did we get the moon? Maybe human beings, they are telling us it's evolution, right? And when we look at the evidence, we all see that it cannot be evolution. Evolution is false. So that is ruled out. Their next option, how did we get the moon? How do you think science tells us that some scientists say we got the moon? Because they don't accept that God exists. So how do you think they claim that we got the moon? Guess. Who guess? Any guesswork? How did we get the moon according to some scientists who are saying God doesn't exist? So we can't explain it from a supernatural view. Okay. They are telling us that multiplying billions of years, all of a sudden, there was an asteroid, or we call them space junk, like stones, large stones in space, moving about. And all of a sudden, it came and it hit our earth, and it broke part of our earth. And it formed the moon, and the moon, that part that got broken, started moving our earth at a very concise and precise speed. Is that true? Hey, Father Bernard. No, this is Father Bernard. How can you tell me this story? But people have not actually looked into it. Okay, how did we get stars? You are telling us God doesn't exist. How did the stars form? We don't know how stars were formed. Today, James Webb Telescope is giving us images as close as some are saying the birth of stars. That is not true. How do we have stars forming? When you look on Earth right now, we have more oxygen, more nitrogen, we have carbon dioxide and some elements in our atmosphere. How did we get these elements? According to the evolutionists and according to those who do not accept God exists, they say all these things just popped into existence. But that cannot be sustained. So when we ask them, how did human beings arrive here? They say evolution. We check the evidence, it is not evolution. They tell us, how did the moon form? You tell us it got broken. When we study the evidence, that cannot be true. Because, I don't know if I have that slide here. We can't get into all this. There's a video to deeply explain this. But if you ask a question, maybe I'll explore it. Okay, I don't have that slide here. I hope I put it there. Okay, I didn't put it there, sorry. Yes. Concerning where the earth is, we are positioned at a precise location in the universe called the Goldilocks zone. This is the only zone within which life is possible. Outside of that zone, life cannot be possible. The moon is tilted, the earth itself is tilted about 12 degrees on its own axis. And that supports life. If it is tilted within 14 degrees, life will end on earth. Didn't it just happen? It couldn't have just happened. Somebody should have carefully designed it. And that sustains our argument that therefore it means the God of the Bible exists. And so I'll end it here. When questions comes, I'll add some to it. If there are no questions, then I have a free day. Thank you very much. So please, I think we should ask the question because of the time. So if there are questions, yeah.
Thank you. Some people also ask this question. Genesis 1 verse 1. They say God is in heaven. So before he created the beginning, where does he stay? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think that you have touched on a lot of things that are very relevant now. I will make a little contribution before I ask my question. Frankly, there are a lot of nonsense that are being said about God and the universe that sometimes when you hear them, you wonder if the people saying them, they have some common sense or not. There's too much nonsense going on being said about God. For example, I was having a discussion with one brother at Carnation Church about this evolution. And there was this man there who was arguing. So that brother asked him only one question. He says, you are an old man like you have children. He says, yes. Your children that you have, were they born as monkeys who evolved into human beings? He said, no. But you were here arguing about evolution and this theory, that theory. But your own children were born as human beings and you are growing as human beings. Why were your children not born as monkeys and then evolved to be human beings? That ended the argument. So frankly, there are a lot of nonsense, I'll put it bluntly, going on there. So please, let's try to see the knowledge that we find out there and see the ones which we can truly run with. Now I'll come to science and creation and those things. Some people have argued that when it comes to science, we Christians, we pick and choose those that are in line with our faith and make nonsense of the others. For example, you made mention of the law of thermodynamics. Somebody will say, because it suits our argument, we will accept it and make reference to it. But those which are not in line with our argument, we throw it away and discard it. How will you argue your case on that one? And then, secondly, let's assume that you are a petroleum engineering student, and your lecturer has taught you that it takes maybe 1 million years for crude oil to be formed from the chemicals that form them. And you have been taught this in class, and that is what you have learned. As a Christian, what should be if someone asks you how long does it take for crude oil to form? You will say 1 million years or something. Meanwhile, our Bible doesn't support that argument. What will you say? Where do we draw the line between the knowledge that we get from science and the knowledge that we get from the Bible? One other thing that people have said is that the Bible says in the beginning. Now, nobody knows when that beginning was. That beginning could have been 500 billion years away. We don't know when that beginning was. So I was listening to one American scientist professor, and he said that they calculate the age of the earth and the sun and the moon using a certain formula. And then somebody asked him, but the Bible says this, like you're saying. And then he said, nobody knows, nobody can prove some of this because the Bible says in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. If we can't know when the beginning was, then how are we going to argue that the age of the earth is false? Because he was saying that it's only the age of humankind that is 6,000 years, but rather the age of the universe is truly billions of years away before human beings came into the universe. It is something that is going on. So how do you respond to this thing? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. I love the questions. From the first one, where was God when he created the universe? So I assume that you are accepting the fact that, okay, God exists. So God exists, then where was he before he created everything? One thing we should understand that the question where, you are looking at location, right? Where means you are looking for location. And location, in you and I, our understanding of location came as a result of the universe, right? So if there's no universe, how do you say where? Please, are you getting it? If there's no universe, you don't have a reference point. In physics, we call something frame of reference. If I ask, are we stable? For example, is the light at rest or not? Hello, is the light at rest or not? It's not at rest. So the earth is moving. But in our frame of reference, the light is at rest. Please, you get it? Are we getting it? So if you ask where was God, looking for a location, physical material location, the matter did not exist. So there was no physical material location for God to be. So then what is the answer? I define who God is. God is incorporeal. That is to say, he's immaterial. God is not made of the material that is in the universe. God is not made of matter. Because matter was then created. Do you get? So God is spirit. What do you mean by spirit? Pneuma. What do you mean by that? It is something not physical. It is something that is not, you can't put it at a particular location as our understanding takes it. Do you get it? So where was God? We don't know where he was. But it cannot be any location like he was around maybe Pluto or maybe the next galaxy, because they were not there. Do you get it? And that is how come it solidifies the reason when the Bible says that God is everywhere. When you say God is everywhere, he is spirit. So he dwells in a different realm from ours. But he can also interact with our universe. Well, he created it. Do you get the question? Now, maybe if somebody asks, I'll then comment on maybe if it comes up. Who created God? But the question, where was God? That answer, the where is not a physical location. Now, the second question, very interesting and very packed set of questions. Three major questions. The first one, are we not picking and choosing? Christians, don't we just pick and choose like we look at it in thermodynamics or we like? Remember when we were starting, I explained something about operational science and historical science. Whether you are a Christian scientist or you are an atheist, and let me say this, many people think that all physicists, all scientists accept Big Bang. No. I have a document and I presented it in one of my debates where you have over 200 scientists, chemists, physicists, biologists that have signed a petition that the Big Bang is false. It never happened. Come again? Yes, it is completely false. So many scientists have penned it, but something is happening in the scientific community called peer pressure, just as it happens amongst our friends. In the scientific realm, if you write an article or you do a research before it's published, you take it to a peer review team. And mostly, if you don't agree with Darwin, Charles Darwin, that evolution is true, your paper will never be published. They will not mind you. You don't even get grants for your research. You will not get grants for your research. So people are being forced to accept that these theories are true. But genuinely, when you look at them, evolution defies the law of spontaneous generation. The law of baryogenesis. Spontaneous generation says that life can just pop into existence like they claim. But the law in science, this is not a Christian law. It's a scientific law. The operational science. That law is not for me. I didn't create. Nobody creates laws. Laws are discovered. right? So that law of biogenesis is independent of whether you are a Muslim, Christian, whatever. That law says that life comes from already existing life. So we are not just taking it, but we are just stating that is that law true, Mr. Scientist? Like we meet them. I remember I went to one of my professors and I told him, said, what is energy? Because I needed it for the debate. So I went to my professor, quantum physics, Professor Agnew. Doc, what is energy? Guess what? He says we don't have definition for energy. Can you believe that? I know what you're thinking. Energy is the ability to do work. Is that not what I'm going to say? It is completely false. Okay, if energy is the ability to do, what about potential energy? What about gravitational energy? What ability to do what work? Ability to do what work? You get it? It is deeper than that. We don't know what it is. Gravity, what is gravity? We don't know. We don't know the definition. So what is my point? What operational science, observational science, we don't have the same tools. When it comes to predicting things in the past, that is where the difference comes in. So are we picking and choosing? No, the laws are there. Something like evolution. Evolution, if it is scientific, you are violating another scientific principle, which says that life must come from already existing life. Yet evolution tells us that, I didn't talk about that. Evolution tells us that over multiple millions of years ago, there was ice everywhere. And all of a sudden, we have something called accretion and volcanic eruption, what most people know. When that volcanic eruption occurred, it comes with heat. So the atmosphere became very warm. We had a lot of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And it melted the ice. And it started raining on Earth for about several millions and thousands of years. And that formed the oceans you see around Antarctica. All the oceans. It started raining though. It rained about thousands of years, and the oceans were formed. Then life started forming in the ocean. Wow! I was taught this in my physics class, environmental physics, and I'll come to your next question. So, Derrick, in exams, did you write that this is how life started, or what did you do? That was the next question. Yes. The answer is this. Yes, I wrote that answer. Why? It is because that is what the person told you. It doesn't mean it's true. I am studying cosmology and astronomy currently with MIT Open Courseware. And I just decided to take the course because I want to understand exactly what they are talking about. So what answers will I give if I'm asking a question? I'll write what they are demanding. Do you get it? But making sure and explaining to everybody that I am a physicist. I have done a master's in physics. And my area of specialization, condensed matter physics. I'm not done, but I'll continue. I'll do that work later on. You get it? So what do I write? It will surprise you that there are several branches. And sometimes it's your choice. Like I told you about the Kenyans when they publish articles saying that the universe is about 13. They know that if they don't say that and they put any other thing there, the scientific community will descend on Kenyans. What are you teaching in your school? And they can't give answers. So they have to pause and also accept it. So do you get how it is? So we are not picking and choosing, but it is the science that they themselves are contending among themselves. Let me show you this before I go to the next question. Look at this one. Do you know that for over 500 years, human beings did not know that bacteria existed? And whenever they performed operations, people were dying because doctors perform operations on pregnant dead bodies, and they bring a pregnant woman to the ward and they wash their hands without soap. They start touching the pregnant woman to operate on them, and they die. So somebody has a question: why are they dying? Why are they dying? And there's the answer. Nobody had the answers until Louis Pasteur later came into the scene to tell us so we have something called bacteria. Guess what? The whole science that was known had to change. Almost every 40 years, we get a new understanding about science. Why? Because what they knew wasn't correct. No. So it is the evidence that is being studied. So the way they changed and now accepted that there is bacteria today, we know and we are benefiting from it. If we accept that evolution is true, it is telling us that then the law of biogenesis that says life can already come from already existing life. It's false, which is not possible. So it is the scientific community that should fight among themselves. not we picking and choosing. Another thing, wait, my answer I have mentioned. Now, in the beginning, the age problem, I like what you said, and I would like to read from a scientist. Please, what's your name? Mr. Samuel? Yes, Dr. Samuel. Yeah, Dr. Samuel, yes. You know, Dr. Samuel, I have heard this thing over and over, and at a point, I decided to start challenging it. Oh, this scientist has said this. That scientist said this. So I said, okay, Derrick, wait. Why don't you verify whether the scientist said that and what they said? Now, let me read one of them to you. Concerning the age of the sun. Listen to them. This is from, let me see if I'll find the name. Yes, Dr. Johnny Eddy. He's an evolutionary scientist. This is what he said, and he's also an astronomer. He said this. There is no evidence based solely on solar observations that the sun is 4.5 to 5 billion years old. Let me continue reading. I suspect that the sun is 4.5 billion years old. He does what? Did he observe it? Ladies and gentlemen, did he observe it? He does what? He suspects. Let's continue. However, listen to the complete change. Giving some new and unexpected results to the contrary, and some time for frantic recalculation and theoretical readjustment. The moment a scientist starts doing this, it comes to confuse you. Are we here? Continue. I suspect that we could live with Bishop Ussher's value for the age of the earth and sun, 4004 BC. And that is how we base our calculations on to estimate that the earth is about 6,000 years. This bishop did his calculation looking at the probable dates in the Bible. And he came to the conclusion maybe the earth was created around 4004 BC. And that is the calculation that lands us to 2012. Yes, 2012. 2023. It is that calculation that has got us here. So now the scientific community is saying that, hey, don't say A, B, and BC again. Anno Domini and before Christ. Don't say that again. Now say common era and before common era. Whether common era, before common era, why do we have 2023? Do you get it? If it is billions of years, why are you dating 2023? Please, are you getting the question? These are hard philosophical questions that we need to keep on thinking about. But the age problem, after saying this, look at what he said. I don't think we have much in the way of observational evidence in astronomy to conflict with that, with the statement that was made earlier that it was 4,000. We don't have observational evidence. It's just assumptions. Now, how did Abetipi, can I go ahead and answer that question? The Abetipi question from Derrick graphic. How did Abetipi people arrive at that calculation? And how did Ghanaian geographers in our lecture rooms, how do they arrive at their calculations? They do something we call radiometric dating. Radiometric dating. And in radiometric dating, it is like this. How many of us know uranium? Uranium is an element like oxygen, hydrogen, thorium. You know those elements? Yes, uranium is one. So we have uranium 238. That's the atomic number. Do you know when it decomposes or when it decays for some time, it becomes lead 206. It changes from uranium to lead. The time it takes for it to decompose, we can estimate and say that, okay, if we have uranium in this laptop, if we leave this laptop here and maybe 10,000 years later, we come and say, how old is the laptop? The uranium that was inside, we will use that uranium that was inside and check. Now, do we have lead? If it is lead, then we can estimate that, okay, then it is maybe 10,000 years. Please, you get it? But you need to make some assumptions. Number one, you should have known the original uranium, whether it was perfect before it started decaying. I don't know if you understand me. You understand what I'm saying, right? And what if you don't see the starting point of the uranium, you can't know the end point. It's like if, for example, your candle is yaeshi. How do you know if it has been burning for 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, or 20 minutes? Do we know? So for the radiometric dating and the 10,000 years and the 4.5 billion years to work, one, you should have known the starting point of the mother element, which is the uranium. Number two, you should have known that it has been constant. For example, when I am cutting a tree, I'm not trying to I'm cutting my tree here, I'm not cut his tree there. Then after 5 minutes, I finished with my tree cutting, and I was leaving 2 cuts per minute. One, I wait, after another minute, another one. I'm not does is papa, 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 papa. Then I'm not finishing before me. If you want to know the time I'm not use, hey, I say physics all. The chef is will be hey, what are you doing? Physics, I know what class, I said there was physics. We need to learn. We need to learn. I'm not that two. So if I want to know how come I'm not finished before me, I can use the probability, can do the calculation. Okay, maybe two cuts per minute. Derrick, 1 cut per minute. So if you estimate, maybe if Derrick uses 10 minutes, I'm not going to use how many minutes? What they try? Hey, you try. 5 minutes. Yes, it's 5 minutes, right? So we can easily tell. But you know that what if annotated 1, 2, 1, 2, then after 3 minutes, then you waited for 5, another 2 minutes, then you went 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. For you to know that not actually use that 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, you should have seen him do it, yes or no? Or it is constant. If it is not constant, it means your calculation is false. Yes or no? The third thing you need for the radiometric dating is that you just don't come and see the end. After seeing the end, you should have also known, okay, after it being constant, has there been any changes to it? Now let me read another quote to you, then I end. The age of our globe, this is from evolutionist Frederick B. J. Newman. He said this, the age of our globe is presently thought to be some 4.5 billion years. Based on radio decay, what I was explaining. So, where did they get all the assumptions from? They made the assumptions themselves. Are we learning? So, I can reject it if the evidence doesn't matter. Continue reading. He says this. Radio decay rate of uranium and thorium, uranium-238 and thorium. Such confirmation may be short-lived. How did you confirm in the first place? Let me continue. As nature is not to be discovered quite so easily, he says, there has been in recent years the horrible realization that radio decay rates are not as constant. If we're in church, I will say hallelujah. It is not even constant. So how do they know? Assumption. It is an assumption. Continue reading. As previously thought, nor are they immune to environmental influences. Now look at this. And this could mean that the atomic clocks are reset during some global disaster, an event which brought the Mesozoic, you learn about that later, age to a close may not be 65 million years ago, but rather within the age and memory of man. How did we now come about the new ages we have and talking about the old ones? He is saying that there must have been some global disaster. Where did you hear of global disaster from human beings? Noah, yes or no? Noah's flood actually occurred. There are Christians who don't believe Noah's flood occurred, which is terrible. So how does this sound? How do these scientists say that? Oh, we did this calculation, we did this research. They assume. We can't rely on it. And we are saying that God, the supernatural creator, was there in the beginning. And he tells us, how do we know the age is our 6,000 years? Because the creation with Genesis chapter 1, he says this, and God called the firmament heaven and the evening and the morning were the second day. Verse 12. And the earth brought forth grass, continues to say, so the evening and the morning were the third day. Evening and morning, third day. Evening and morning, fourth day. Evening and morning, fifth day. Evening and morning, sixth day. Then we know that chapter 2, it says this. Thus, the heavens and the earth were all, and the host of them were finished. And on the seventh day, this is the Almighty God talking. How do we know we have literal days? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday were created within the same period. The earth and the stars were all made within the same time period. Somebody says, but in the beginning, we don't know. What if in the beginning, it is about 2,000? No. When the Hebrew writer, the word he used there for day, it is the same yom. It is the same thing that we know as today. When we say 24-hour day, God created it on the first day. That is how come we know. So how do we know we have 6 days and 7 days in a week? It is because God told us right there in the Bible. Jesus Christ, when he came to this and made reference to what God did in the creation, that literal 6 days. You know that is how the Israelites calculated the Sabbath. So if it was not 6 literal days, how would the Israelites calculate their Sabbath? The Israelites calculated day one on a Friday, they go and pick their food, they cooked for Friday and Saturday. Then Saturday, how do they know about the time? If it was more than 1 day. Christians and some theologians that hold on to the billions of years for 1 day, it cannot be sustained. Jesus Christ, all the early writers would stand against that idea. It is not true. It is 6 literal days according to the Bible. And so these questions, you might have more questions, but I have been told that time is up. I don't know. So thank you very much. So let's ask the questions together.
Meaning we view things in a two-dimensional way. So like looking at this world, because I live in a three-dimensional world, I can look at this world because I can see this side, I can see the back. If we were to live in a four-dimensional world, that means I can look and see, because we'll be looking at a four-dimensional. If you're living in a four-dimensional world, that means we can look at things three-dimensional. So if you're living in a four-dimensional, that means you can look at the other side of the world. So what's your take on that? Does that mean the fourth dimension, in a way, if we operate in a fourth dimension, like you was explaining, you could be able to move through walls and stuff like that. So what's your take on that? Thank you.
Yeah, please, my question is, when you were speaking, you said before creation, in the beginning, God was there, but he was not in heaven. Okay, so after he created everything, then came heaven. Okay, so I want to ask, is God now in heaven, or he's still not in the material world? And I also want to add, is heaven part of the material world or not? That's my question.
This award, Dan Baka, you made mention of him, and Kabat. The man said, what kind of a loving God would create hell in the first place? For example, me, when my father and mother was doing that and I was not there, I didn't ask them for, yes. Then I came into the world, God is loving, has given me freedom. I'm not a robot. So I'm supposed to choose between right and wrong. I didn't ask for it. So why would he bring me here? Yes, and create hell for me. Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody saw the apple ball. Nobody asked why. Only you did. Apple ball is not why. That's not how we have to do it. Always there. So the reason that we have very serious. I like the way
Okay, so anybody at all can say God exists, and there is God. Yes, there is God. Even Muslim, atheists, Judaism. So I'm asking this afternoon that does the God of the Bible exist? Because we Christians, we worship through the Bible. Everything that we use, like they're using the Bible. So I want to know, like, explain to me if the God of the Bible exists. How does he exist? Okay, so I want to my daughter would
In case I'm not able to respond to your question, maybe I want to that last question. Last. So let's try or show another question. All these questions, there are videos of them on YouTube. So you just for like, I'm sure you find all the lessons there. Please you ask a question.
Brother Derrick, in your teaching, you are like, how God came into his son.
Yeah.
I don't understand this question. Sorry, that thank you.
Don't understand the question.
How God came.
Who created? How did God come?
Okay. Okay. I would say this. I'm very, very happy and impressed with the question. Please let's not stop asking questions. Ask all the questions, the very basic questions. Keep on asking them. If you ask and somebody tells you, you like asking too many questions, don't worry. Find somebody who will answer the questions for you. Right? It's very good. It's to help yourself clear your doubts and also to help other people. Okay, so let me start from the back. How did God come? It's like, should I say who created God? Is that the idea? Yes. When you look at what we have here, it will be very, very false. Please, if you can jump to the first slide so that it will help me out here. Yes, it's okay. Who created God? It's a wrong question. Or if you ask where did God come from, God has always been there. God is eternal. When we say God is eternal, that is the meaning. He has always existed. There hasn't been a time where there was no God. Time itself was created by God. So imagine what you call time, space, at a point wasn't there, but God was always there. He has always been there. And that's why the book of Revelation says, the God who is, who was, and who is to come. He's eternal. He's eternal. Do you get it? So where did God come from? He has always been there. Just that he's a spirit being who can take on the form of any form of creature that he wants to. But at least when we go to the Bible, we know that he revealed to us that he became also a man. We know the man Jesus Christ. Right? So where did he come from? Yes. But to ask who created him is a wrong question. It's like asking me what is the smell of color red. How will I know the smell of color red? Did you get the question? You can't smell colors. You can what? See colors. So we call it wrong categorization. You have placed under the wrong category. Because God cannot be created. By definition, the moment you say God, it means something that can't be created. So if you say who created God, it's like asking me put squares in circles. It's illogical. And yet, I made a video on TikTok. A lot of people came to the comment section. Who created God? No. And I said, you're asking the wrong question. Ask the right question for the right answer. Because the law says this. It says that every material effect must have adequate antecedent cause. Every material. God is not material. God is immaterial. So this law doesn't apply to the supernatural God. Okay. The next question. How do we know God of the Bible exists? Okay. Please take me to the last. Yes. How do we know? This is the reason. How do we know that it's the God of the Bible and not the God of Islam and not the God of Buddhism? I do what we call comparative religion. I teach Islam, I teach Christianity, sometimes Buddhism, all the world religions, we talk about them. One thing I have studied is that the God of Islam doesn't interact with his creation. Never. Throughout the Quran, from Surah to Fatiha to the last Surah, there's no place in the Quran, all the 114 chapters of the Quran, there's no place where you have Allah coming to earth to interact with his creation like the way God of the Bible does. Never. It never happens. And so when you look at the properties or the characteristics of the God of Islam, it is completely different from what you see in the Bible. So my studies and research on who the God of Islam is, it doesn't exist. And we can explore it. So how do I know the God of the Bible exists? Somebody says, you are just discrediting Islam to make yours good. No, wait, this is why. The historical miracle working resurrected Jesus demands a supernatural explanation. If Jesus came to this earth, then God exists. Take God, the God of the Bible. Then you know it's the God of the Bible that exists. If Jesus Christ actually existed. Please, are we here? Hello? So now, do you know what they are doing? Many people are doing their best to find out and to claim that Jesus never came to this earth. Because if Jesus never came to this earth, then they can say that the God of the Bible doesn't exist. But Jesus came, he lived in the streets of Palestine, he walked on this earth. So you can't say that he didn't exist. So how do you know it's our God? Because Jesus is the only creature, or Jesus is the only being on this earth that has been in heaven and also on earth. Then let me answer the first question about heaven. It says, God was not in heaven when he created, yes. Remember I quoted Genesis 1 in Hebrew. That says that Bereshit bara Elohim et Yashamayim. That is what is translated as heaven. Who asked the question? Yes, it is that word that is translated as heaven, right? It is in reference to the skies. Okay? When I was in Sunday school, I asked my Sunday school madam this question. If in the beginning God created heaven and earth, where was God when he was creating heaven? And my Sunday school madam said, "If I do a question, you will come to. Who heaven and earth don't they tell us this?" But my Sunday school madam doesn't know the Hebrew language. She didn't know that the heaven there was not God's dwelling place, heaven. No. It simply refers to the sky, the expanse of the universe. So even that word there includes the entire expanse of the universe. Okay? So where was God when he created it? We have always said that is material. So God made it. God made it. So that should be the spiritual realm where Christians, we hope to go. It is also called heaven. Are we all here? That place is also called heaven. That is why sometimes people get confused. So that answers that. He says, is heaven part of the material world? If you understand heaven, if you understand heaven from Genesis 1 to be the skies, then you know there's no problem. In several passages in the Bible, when it's referring to the skies, they would use skies to avoid confusion with where Christians want to go to. In the book of Revelation, chapter 20, we are told that Christians, the faithful, those who be faithful to the end, they will enjoy an eternal bliss with the Father in heaven. That heaven is not the skies. That is not the sky. That is a spiritual realm. It is not a physical place. Recently, we did a video on Spotlight. You normally hear this thing. They call whom we are selling. We are teaching about you hear that a lot, right? In the spiritual realm, there's no place like I am traveling to the spiritual realm. When you get to the spiritual realm, it's like you have street there, and above all, we say that at the spiritual realm, you have to buy land to contribute to their church. It is not like that. So that false understanding of people spreading on the TV, you think that is how heaven is like. It's like some place where you dress up and you be walking in the streets. It's not like that. Our Sunday school madam told us that in heaven, when you say jollof, not jollof aba. When you say fried rice, not fried. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 said that we will put on a new body, not like this body. How would my Sunday school madam lie to me like that? And the Muslims don't know. They don't even care. They don't know. Sunday school para and somebody like me, I was so angry. So if assuming I didn't do maybe some studies or I didn't meet people who have knowledge to explain certain things, and I meet somebody on the street that you claim to be a Christian, heaven, what are you going to do there? They're going to eat your law. That is why people think that America is a heaven. You have no idea. Read 1 Corinthians chapter 2. He says, "Eye has not seen, ear has not heard what the Lord will give to us." Hallelujah. You can't even describe it. It's indescribable. So what does Revelation do? It uses the best things in the world, like gold. There's nothing precious than gold in the world. So God just helps us to understand the greatest form of. He says, on the street there is gold. It's not gold. It's trying to help you understand a little, comprehend a little. You can't even fathom how heaven is. Because that's in heaven, the Father is the Son. It's like the Father is like there's neither day or night. There's no soul, there's no soul there. How is that place like? We don't know. We don't know. So it leads me to the last question about hell. Let me ask anybody who has this question. Why did God create hell? If you do something wrong on earth right now, is it right for a judge to take you to the prison, condemn you to life imprisonment? Please, is it right or wrong? Hello? Hello? We are on earth, we are in Tsunami. If Derrick decides to pick a gun, shoots about 30 of us, will it be right for the judge to say, oh, Derrick, you shot only 30? Oh, so you go home. So that you just said, Dr. just shouted, hey. Our human nature goes like, which judge will do that? And the moment the food came, all of us have forgotten about the lesson. Yeah, item 13 is very important. You know, when I was speaking, the moment I was standing here, when they brought item 13, then I started talking and just, I know that there is food. So it's very good. Okay, so please let's concentrate as they share the food. So, brother, your question. I was asking, would it be right for the judge to imprison Derrick for maybe 2 days because he killed 30 people? It will not be wrong. What about if he imprisons me for 2 years? Would it be wrong if he does that? What about 20 years? Okay, what about life imprisonment? Okay, life imprisonment is too little. What about, he says, firing squad? Is that judge wicked? Don't you know Derrick has parents? Don't you know Derrick has friends? Why are you condemning Derrick to life imprisonment? Or why are you killing him? Just 30 people that he killed. Only 30. Is that what you say? So the question is that if God has given us our free will to choose between right or wrong, and you choose to do evil, is it fair for God to punish you? It's fair. Is it fair for God to reward you? If it is not fair for God to punish, then it is not fair for him to reward. Please, are you getting it? But one of the attributes of God is that he is just. And justice demands that you be fair. So there are people, I have watched videos, I have seen people who have said that if God gives me the opportunity to choose between heaven and hell, me, I will walk to hell and get to hell and tell God, go to hell. So whose choice? It's their choice. And let me say this to conclude on that, that anybody who goes to hell willingly chose to go to hell. Nobody will ever go to hell against their will. Then God is not a true God. Then he doesn't deserve our worship. If you go to hell, if I go to hell, and we meet in hell, it means we made the decision to come to hell. Are we following? Because you knew what you had to do and you failed to do it. What about, I didn't choose to be born. And my mom and my dad, they decided to meet, they had their the sexual relations and they had me. So God, what about that? How would you respond to this? It is true. Your parents, okay, what about if it was rape? Right? Or what will you also do about that? Yes. It's like saying that the fact that somebody is found in a worse situation means they can do even worse things. You see, yes, it wasn't your choice. It was okay, interesting. Something just came to my mind. Do you know if you decide not to be born, you are not helping your parents because your parents also have a choice. Right? So it was your parents' choice. So if you deny them that, you know, somebody sued their parents, I think in Japan or so, he sued the parents for giving birth to him. Yes, why did they give birth to him without his consent? And I think it's a funny argument in court. If I was a lawyer, I would ask this. On what basis are you making the argument? Because you didn't have the knowledge of it, right? Okay, when you did not have the knowledge of it, when you are just, before you became a human being, the sperm is different from the egg. The sperm and the egg came together to form that. So just including the egg and the sperm, not me. It is the sperm and the egg that produce you, not me, the man. Men don't produce babies, women don't produce babies. It is when the man and the woman comes together and the sperm meets the egg. Until the sperm meets the egg, there is no life. That is why when married couples are talking about contraceptives and we are advising as men of God and as Christians, we look at make sure there is no life, the life hasn't been formed before the contraceptive is used or something like that. But the moment the sperm meets the egg, a new organism has been formed, which the parent, the dad is not aware, the mom is not aware. If for any argument, I only gave your mom 23 chromosomes. So you can give me back my 23 chromosomes. Ladies and gentlemen, are you getting where it's getting to? So, yes, I understand, but technically, you can't even make that argument because it's a new organism on its own. It's a new organism on its own. I think we exhausted a lot of the time, and all the questions and all the arguments you can ask later, and we'll talk about them. God bless us so much, and I really appreciate this opportunity. Please, let's keep on asking questions and let's watch the videos and learn more about it. God bless us all. Let's enjoy our 10:30. Amen.